Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first of 3 readings by the graduating students of the Lesley University MFA program in creative writing. My name is Danielle George. I'm the director of the program, and I would like to welcome the readers this evening, of course, their families and friends, partners, kids, pets, and pets of everyone, current students, faculty, our alums, and members of the public who are here with us tonight. We're not physically together, but we are here all virtually together, which I think is a fantastic thing. So feel free to let us know where you are via the chat, what city, what state, what country you're in, so we can see who's in the house. I'm going to type in my location, Dorchester. California, New Haven, Connecticut. We're seeing Berkeley, Texas, Mass. Wow, okay. So we have a cascade of locations. Brookline, Gloucester, Stoneham, Allston, Revere, in the house, Peabody, Sacramento, Chelmsford, Plum Island, Massachusetts, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Somerville, Lynn, and so on. And so these will be held in the chat as we are all together. Tonight, our readers will be Angelo D'Amato, Allison Dixon, David Klose, Merlyn Mayhew, and Jessica Tower. And I love these student readings because they give us a sample of what students have been working on for semesters, for years, and in some instances for lifetimes. The texts you will hear are honed works, the result of much homework, including many submissions to and conversations with faculty, mentors, much reading, revision, positive risk-taking, and of course, the engagement of the imagination. Each reader will present for about 10 minutes or so, and then stay on screen after. And the audience will unmute themselves, applaud the reader, and if you would like, you may hoot and holler. That's acceptable too. And then the reader will introduce the person following them. All right. And the chat will remain open for the audience during the course of the readings, and you may use the chat to provide feedback and offer appreciation to the readers. Okay, so now I would like to welcome to the big screen our first reader of the evening, Angelo D'Amato.
Hello, everyone. Is the sound coming through okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. All right. So there are a lot of people to thank. I've been dwelling on Mr. Rogers' 2002 Dartmouth commencement address, where he says, "We just don't get to be competent human beings without a lot of different investments from others." And I have found this statement to be absolutely true. I can't get to everyone, so I'll just focus on the people whom I feel served key narrative roles throughout the last couple of years. First, the staff at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center Psychiatric Ward, who not only provided, forgive the pun, but mind-blowing care, but who also provided the patients with computers, one of which I used to apply to this program in a last-ditch Hail Mary sort of way. I'm wearing the same outfit I wore during the week I spent there. Black dress shirt, black dress pants and black socks, and black dress shoes. And the white glasses, of course. Then my mentors, Tony, Christina, AJ, Michael, Lori, and Janet, for seeing that my work had potential for pushing me to do better, for cutting me down to size when I needed to be cut down to size, and for ultimately allowing me to believe that I had something worth saying that went deeper than a need for attention, and that with enough practice, I could say it well. And finally, the St. Rose school community for giving me the opportunity to work there and re-enter the world and develop a secure and healthy self-esteem. And I'm going to take a moment to speak directly to my students. I wasn't able to give them a proper farewell, so it's important for me to do this. And I understand it's going to cut into my reading time, but I'm okay with that. To the students of St. Rose, I have missed all of you. And despite everything that's happened over the last few months, I hope that you're happy and that you feel safe. I have a few parting thoughts for you. You probably won't understand them until you're older, even if assuming that this even gets out there. But I figured I'd say them anyway. First, never let anyone silence your voice. Your voice belongs to you and you alone, and you should be proud of it. Keep questioning and challenging authority figures, especially when those authority figures feel they are entitled to your respect. No one is entitled to your respect. No one, for any reason. And lastly, keep finding reasons to laugh and to feel joy, and you'll be all right. And with that, I bid you all a very fond farewell. Love, Mr. D. For the actual reading, I'm reading an excerpt from a story tentatively titled, Unless You Be Like a Child, though I might change it to simply Sunshine. The story is about a baptism and what the different characters involved in the baptism are thinking throughout the ceremony. The young parents, Stacy and Joseph, had a baby, Samuel, out of wedlock. Stacy and Joseph are in their sophomore year of college, and both of them were raised in traditionally Catholic households. This excerpt starts the morning of the baptism, then cuts to the ceremony, seen from Samuel's perspective. I'll signal that we're jumping to Samuel's perspective with a small pause. After the reading, I'd be curious to know if those of you who were in Hester's seminar, The Sentimental Trap, found this excerpt to be sentimental or not. So here I go. That morning, Stacy had been worried they'd have to reschedule. It's raining really hard, Joseph, she said. I know, he said. She felt him approaching behind her. She did not resist when he wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. It's going to be okay, he murmured, and despite herself, because she knew he was not talking about just the weather. She found herself feeling the same way she'd felt the first time he touched her, in Mr. Jacobson's second period English lit class, passing her a stapler. Thrilled, stupid, special, and she felt herself relaxing into his warmth. You think so? She said. Yes, he breathed. Things are clearing up. Meanwhile, their parents were drinking coffee in the living room, talking. Grandparents to grandparents. And their hair wasn't gray, and their joints didn't ache, but it was nice their children had agreed to a baptism. Yes, so nice. And it was going to be a blessed day, introducing this child conceived out of wedlock into the church. Secretly, a part of me is angry that we have to do this at all. Secretly, I would prefer that Samuel didn't exist, but I won't say that to the others. These scones are delicious, Mary. Did you make them yourself? Yes, they were Stacy's favorite when she was a little girl. Our Joseph never cared much for sweets. He preferred his vegetables and his pretzels. Oh, that's different. Most children love candy, not even M&Ms. No, Joseph was a different boy, a very sweet child. Yes, I remember that about him. He still says, I love you. And at his age, you don't hear many boys still doing that. Well, I'm sure he will be a good father to our grandchild. Oh, yes, undoubtedly, yes. He will be a good father to our grandchild, who is sleeping in the old rocker that we pulled out of the attic shortly before he was born. I thought we'd thrown it away. It feels like Joseph was in it just yesterday, laughing with bubbles of spit sliding down his chin. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. His mother's necklace is warm in Samuel's palm. He is floating, floating. He remembers when he was floating. His mother's voice moving through him. The blue light pouring through Mary's robe makes him smile because it is like the color of his room. Father Daniel's hands are warm and his voice is soft. There is so much color and there is so much light. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. And that's that. All right, and next up we got the lovely Allison Dixon reading some nonfiction.
All right. So my Wi-Fi might be a little spotty. I hope that it's not. So we're gonna do the best we can. I'm gonna be reading something from my thesis. And before I do, I would just like to give a little bit of context, I guess. And most importantly, thank Pam. Pam and I worked together for a couple years now on this together. And she gave me a super safe, wonderful space for me to work out and work on something that has been a long time coming. So before I get started, I'm going to start in the middle of a chapter. It's called More Than Bone. And the memoir is about a long time ago, I was raped. And it's kind of a memoir that works through that. So there are going to be some details in here that might not make all that much sense just because it's pretty far on in the thesis. But here we go. My dad and I watched The Exorcist together on Halloween 2004. I was curled up on the ground in front of the television in our living room in a blanket, leaning up against my folded arm with a pillow underneath. My dad sat behind me in his brown leather recliner like he always did, remote on the left arm of the chair. He's a lefty. Iconic scenes played, like the famous head spinning all the way around thing, the backwards crowd walking upstairs, the shape shifting into everyone's worst fears. And when I couldn't take it, I'd turn my head over my shoulder for the reassurance that he was watching too, that I wasn't in this mess of a film by myself. By the time the ending credits came, my dad and I simultaneously sighed with relief and chuckled a little at the realization we had both been so tense, so scared, and so captivated by the horror. Both of us were jumpy for days afterward, and I would laugh because I knew he had seen it before. I always thought it funny he waited until after the movie to tell me he saw it when he was 17 years old, or maybe 18. And when he went home that night, he moved his dresser in front of his bedroom door just in case something tried to get in. Why did you let me watch it then? I asked loudly. I was laughing though. You can handle it, he said. I figured the effects wouldn't be too bad. Maybe I figured wrong. That is some scary shit. I laughed more. Jesus Christ, I said, sitting up on the floor, wrapping the blanket around my shoulders. My dad and I were home alone the afternoon we watched The Exorcist together. And since he had said shit in front of me and let me watch something my mom probably would have curbed swiftly and with no hesitation, I knew it was a relaxed space to test out some curses, to be more of a person than a daughter. Something casual but safe about my dad's energy always allowed me to feel this way, like I could let loose. He could look beyond me as his daughter, his youngest child, both older now and raped. I wonder if he ever saw or heard my silent cry for help. I imagined and prayed so hard for help me to be written on my belly too, so that my dad would see it and know everything that had happened and everything I felt without me having to speak up and tell my story. Images of the movie haunted me on those cold nights and early mornings when I'd wander naked in the dark until I latched onto my fleece leopard robe. Since I had been raped, actually, I thought about The Exorcist a fair amount of time, a lot. Truly, there was not a night or morning when something about the movie didn't slink its way into my imagination. My dad was right. That was some scary shit. Total loss of control of the self, total loss of control of the body, needing help but being silenced, the perversion of an innocent young girl, and of course the actual demon which remained invisible but showed itself through her. It was all scary. One afternoon, shortly after I had seen the movie, I actually Googled how not to get possessed. That's how afraid I was of something like this happening to me. And even then, I thought, how sad and terrifying for my parents and the people that love me. Sure, I'd be the one trapped inside my own body, battling a demon, but my mom would miss me so much it might kill her. I couldn't do that to them, so I did my research. One article I clicked on said it's best if you live your life not obsessed with possession. It had to do with the universal law of attraction. The more you thought about it, the more scared you were, and the more scared you were, the more likely it would happen because your fear would be a sort of telepathic invitation. I found myself obsessing over not obsessing, and when I was older, on those cold nights or early mornings, I'd picture "help me" scraped into my belly like scars, and I'd think how twisted it would be if my fear all these years of total loss of control of the body, needing help but being silenced, the perversion of an innocent young girl, and of course the actual demon that remained invisible but showed itself through me, had generated such tremendous demonic energy that it came to me in the form of rape. My demon was an obvious one, and it had finally consumed me fully that night in the pool, after years of brushing up against it in passing. It made me think too that I had somehow known it was coming all along. Part of me has never wanted to admit that while it was happening, while Dickie wiggled and pressed against me until he was hard enough to push himself inside me, even drunk, even in the water where the odds of his success should have been minimal, as I gripped the float in silence, the only thought in my head was, here it is. This is what I had been afraid of all those years. On some level, I had been expecting it. After the rape, possession became something that I empathized with instead of feared. It became clear to me that possession occurred when your fear took hold and the rest of you acted accordingly, in defense or coping or avoidance. I thought about this a lot. I thought especially a little girl that my brother told me about at Franciscan Hospital who would dissociate, strip off her clothes, pee, get on all fours, and growl like a dog until whatever had woken up in her subsided. She remembered none of it. I thought about what must have happened to that little girl, what my brother couldn't or wouldn't tell me, and how my heavy and swollen heart told me that I didn't have to know. What I did know was that it was enough to turn her into an animal so she could take a break from being herself. Her demon came to her in the form of a rabid dog. The growling, the self-harm, the urine, the harm to others, the noises and deep voices she'd make, all of it was the result of trauma. We say demon, maybe because it's easier, because it solidifies a trauma as evil, otherworldly, and gives the force of a name. What it also does, though, is take away the humanness of trauma, of suffering, supporting the notion that we can all expel these demons from us, that they don't belong, that we are no good if we carry them. And that's wrong. Being human doesn't resume when darkness has vanished. Being human is always there, pressing toward the onward, possessed or not. I thought this had to be true, maybe selfishly for my sake and my personal survival, but I had a good feeling it was true for everyone. I hoped this was the case. I began to wonder about my repulsion from Catholicism, especially the culture of the church and CCD. I didn't need a stranger to throw their props and prayers at me, reminding me I wasn't good enough if I didn't feel guilty about my darkness, if I didn't want rectification and confession to erase some of the most human parts of myself. I must have felt this pressure on a cellular level, even as a kid, because my angst about confession, as well as the expected blind acceptance of creation as told in the Bible, existed as part of me without suggestion from elsewhere. And now I was starting to piece myself together out of something horrible that had happened, disrupting every moment of my waking life. But I was also learning to make sense of myself as well. This process seemed dark and perverted in itself, as if I could only know myself out of tragedy. And while I don't think this is a necessity for truth, while I don't believe that an artist can only paint or write or create from pain, for me, it came down to a choice. I could allow it to enfold me so I could see myself as more than blood and flesh and bone, or I could suffer. Both were exhausting. Yet, I had the privilege to choose. I had the space to choose. I had my basic and biological necessities met. I didn't always know what I was doing, and I certainly didn't know that struggling onward meant I'd already chosen to know myself and accept my humanity, that somehow the choice had been made. Maybe it was made by the self that had scrawled "help me" in invisible scars on my stomach. Whatever or whoever it was, me or not me, or all of me, brains, bones, sinew, I'm glad the choice was made for my onward. I'm glad I recognized that my habit of sleeping naked hadn't changed, and that despite my bouts of sorrow, I recognized other breakthroughs of light and began to anticipate new ones. Not all of us who are possessed get to arrive here, at the spot where light starts to shine through, where it came to find me instead of me tirelessly searching for it. And that's it.
Bravo.
Thanks, guys. And next, it's my honor to introduce David Klose, who will be reading some fiction.
All right. I'll just start. This is a version of a discarded draft about 2 drafts ago that didn't quite make it into my thesis. I had texted Sarah, "I'm going to kill myself today." And 2 hours later, she responded, "I shouldn't joke about suicide." And then she asked, "But what's new?" Then she sent a screenshot of an exchange on Twitter between a conservative pundit with a verified blue check complaining about immigration and a poet clapping back. 5 more minutes went by, and then she asked how I'd do it, referring to my suicide. And I replied that I wouldn't, that this was all for a short story I was working on where a man named David texts his friends about wanting to kill himself as a joke, and the plot revolves around their responses. Then I followed up with how I'd do it: drive my car into the canal near my house or shoot myself in the chest. Sarah said the idea sounded difficult to turn into a story because all the conflict would feel shallow, since the reader wouldn't be sure if the protagonist really wanted to kill himself or not. Then she invited me to listen to her read her poetry at the Moore's Head open mic night. Finally, she sent me a text saying drowning was one of her biggest fears. It had been 8 months since college graduation, 2.5 months since the woman I thought I'd marry ended things with me. And after working a real job with a long list of responsibilities, I knew more than ever I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't know how to make that happen. I Googled the question, read articles on poetsandwriters.com and Thought Catalog, and decided to apply to the Bread Loaf Writers Conference to add something impressive to my CV, to increase my chances at admission to an MFA program. Enough people had told me an MFA program does not make you a writer, but I didn't know what else to do. I knew how I wanted the story to end, the one about the guy who texts his friend he's going to kill himself, but I couldn't get the plot there, and thought getting some distance from it might help me figure a way out. That was how I convinced myself to go to Sarah's poetry reading the night before my submission was due. Moore's Head was a 24-hour cafe in the middle of the art district in downtown Phoenix, where historic homes have been renovated into coffee houses, art galleries, bookstores, and yoga centers, where the homeless walk like sheepdogs herding cattle. The patio of Moore's Head was home to fluctuating avant-garde art installations. On my way inside, I stopped to look at the current exhibit, entitled "Bits of Him He Was Willing to Leave Behind." The consisted of vials about as long as my thumb and thick as my wrist of ejaculate. Each vial was labeled with a first name and a few details about the donor. One vial read Mark, age 24. Sex always ended with me giving him head, making collection easy. Another vial read Lucas, age 32. Would always tell me that after sex I was, quote, something else. Sarah was with 2 other people at a small square table meant to accommodate just 2. After ordering a latte, I made my way over. Sarah hugged me from her chair, introduced me to her friends, Mark and Lulu. I put my drink down the table's edge, like a billiard ball in the corner pocket. Lulu had a camera with her and took a photo of me as I drank from my mug. She would snap over a dozen photos of Sarah when it came time to read her poetry. So much so I wondered if Sarah found it as distracting as I did. Mark teased Sarah because she had not yet signed up for the open mic. Sarah said she didn't want to be the first person to go up. Motioning her head back to the stage, which was a stool about 2 feet tall and the width of a manhole, with light beaming down from the ceiling. Sarah said no one remembers the first person to do something. Before Mark could make a counterpoint, arching his body to argue, Sarah sighed and explained, no one remembers the first person to do something for any other reason than that they were the first. Lulu asked me about my life. Her hands moved as she spit questions at me, such as, how do you know Sarah? Are you a writer? Are you reading your work tonight? Or drinking after? Are you coming? Sarah said that earlier I texted her I was going to kill myself, so she invited me to keep me alive. They all laughed and then looked at me. I clarified that I was working on a short story about a character named David, who had something happen to him which made him depressed, something the narrator only refers to as X. I explained that it's about him contemplating suicide. I said what I'm trying to do is focus on the depression, not the sadness, not the event. Whenever you read a sad story, you always wonder why it happened, but I don't think why it happened is important. X is a placeholder for whatever makes you think, what if I walk into traffic right now? I think we put too much value on finding X, on what caused the thought pop into our heads. We think if we can find the root, then we can find the solution. But we're not like a broken furnace or a bad fuel pump. It's the mind or the soul or whatever you want to call it, and it's probably infinite or close to it. So why do we think we can find the root to it all? There was a moment of silence, or more accurately, a moment of everyone else in the cafe making noise, sipping their drink, laughing, shifting in their chairs, the steam wand of the espresso machine hissing. Then Mark asked with a slow smile, so your name is David, and your character's name is David, and your character wants to kill himself. And you texted Sarah earlier today that you're going to kill yourself. Call the police, everybody, Lulu said. He's guilty of sin. Suicide isn't illegal, Sarah said. The characters are all fictional, I said. And suicide is definitely illegal, Mark said. Well, maybe, Sarah replied. But what does it matter if you're dead anyway? Mark pointed at the sign-up sheet. There was now a line of 3 people. Sarah got up and walked over to join them, leaving another awkward silence behind. I pulled out my phone and saw that someone on Twitter was dunking on someone else on Twitter for not apologizing thoroughly enough for an offensive Halloween costume they wore years ago. I wondered if I'd ever have to apologize for a Polaroid I'm pretty sure exists of me doing a Nazi salute at Nancy's Halloween party in my senior year of high school. And if I did, would I be able to find the words? Mark said this place had the best breakfast tacos and waved down the waitress and ordered 6 for the table. I told them I'd actually been here a few times before, mostly with Linda, who I did all throughout college and for about a few months after, before she decided she needed more freedom with her life. I said we always order the breakfast tacos. I explained that up until now I avoided places like this, just in case she might be here. Describe it for us, Mark said, and I'll keep a lookout and yell out something when she comes in. What has changed, Lula asked, that you're comfortable coming here now? Did you find someone else? No, I said. I explained that I learned through a friend of a friend that all this time I had been avoiding our usual cafes and bars and movie theaters while she had simply moved out of the country 2 weeks after the breakup. She was studying art history in France. I realized that she had chose widening her world as a form of escape, whereas I chose narrowing mine. Sarah came back to our small table, slumping into her chair and told us she was third after a comic and a belly dancer. I once had to follow a belly dancer, Mark said, when I was doing spoken word on the Caribbean circuit. Lulu shook her head, laughing, embarrassed in a playful way. It was a wild time in my life, Mark continued, looking off in the distance. We smoked ganja like they were filtered cigarettes and drank mead. Ignore him, please, Lulu said. He does this ongoing bit where he lived for years as a traveling poet. At that very moment, I wanted to have a girlfriend so I can take out my phone and text her about this character named Mark and the joke he was doing, how the joke reminded me of her grandfather, but the way her grandfather spoke when he wasn't joking, when he was reminiscing about when he was younger and, quote, full of life. I wanted to share my night with someone, to have someone to share things with after everyone else went home. Nights have a way of not feeling real if they don't get shared in time. Sometimes that's a wonderful feeling, but sometimes it's as painful gets. After the comic joked and the belly dancer danced, and after Sarah read her poetry and I filmed it at her request for the phone, I started to say goodbye when Mark said they were going across the street to get the best mezcal on either side of the border and I should join them. I explained I needed to work my story. The submission was due tomorrow. Lulu then said, "What have you got to lose? Your lady is a world away." It turns out I hate the taste of mezcal, the mixture of something burning and rotten. So after a round, I started ordering Moscow mules, and when I felt warm and dizzy, I switched to beer. We didn't leave until after closing time, the door security ushering us out with flashlights. As we walked to our cars, Lulu's camera illuminated the streets, exposing a homeless man sleeping in a box. On the drive home, the freeway was nearly empty. It was late into the night, but you couldn't tell by the lack of light as much by the presence of the awful yellow glow of streetlights. I looked up and out the driver's side window, but couldn't see the night sky. I knew I wouldn't have time to finish the story, not the way I intended. I'd sleep in, head throbbing and fatigued. I knew I didn't have it in me to get it there, wherever there was, and I would submit this story, as I submitted all things, about 70% done, with a feeling of embarrassment. If I had finished the story the way I wanted, I think the fictional version of myself would have also ended up here, drunk on the freeway, driving home alone, choosing yet again to contract instead of expand. That's it.
Yay!
And next we have Merlyn Mayhew, writing for young people.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank my guy, Jamie, my family, friends, colleagues, cohorts, and the YA All-Star Squad for their endless encouragement and proofreading. I'm a better writer because of you. I want to thank Danielle, Lisa, Chris, Craig, and all of the Lesley staff who make it possible to live in writer La La Land twice a year. Thank you to all the faculty inside and outside my genre for showing me how thrillingly complicated it is to craft a solid story. And finally, thank you to my mentors and reader, Susan, Jason, Chris, and Tracy, for your brilliance, enthusiasm, and unwavering support. I heart all of you legends. I'm going to read a short excerpt from my thesis, a YA sci-fi fantasy novel titled Static and Bolts. You're probably wondering what's in the corner of my screen. I have 3 talented siblings, one of whom crafted a logo for the central organization in the story, the Bureau of Lightning Tree Speakers, who are referred to as the Bolts. I'm going to read a short synopsis to help set up the scene that takes place partway through the story. You're either born a Bolt or you're not. 16-year-old Maxwell Lewin is both. The Bureau of Lightning Tree Speakers uses time travel to accomplish one main directive: ensure people do not divert from their life path. Maxwell's family legacy looms as his blood-borne illness means he may never travel. After a jolt of electricity from the Monroe, Montana train station launch causes Maxwell's sister Brooke to disappear, Maxwell knows he must be the one to figure out where and when she landed. But when his mistimed travels cause Maxwell to leap from 1957 to 2019, he befriends a strikingly familiar stranger, Jade. As he learns about Jade and the turmoil with her brother Hunter, Maxwell realizes he and Jade are more connected than they thought. But with the threat of the Bolts finding him and dragging him back to 1957, Maxwell must confront his family's legacy and decide what it really means to bring his sister home. So in the scene I'm going to read, it's the first time Maxwell and Jade are together in the Foggy Pines. Am I still on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Uninformed from only paying half attention in his bolts lessons, Maxwell is piecing together the mechanics of time travel as he explains them to Jade. He doesn't exactly know what he's doing, but he knows his time is running out to find Brooke. The story is told in Maxwell's first-person point of view. I lead us between the trees on the slope, peering until I spot it. The scorch mark charred into the tallest tree. See that? I point. Jade glances upward. What am I looking for? There's a gash in this tree. It starts at the top and the burn mark runs all the way down. It's a scorch from the lightning bolt from the blue. It's the most powerful lightning. We have to stand with our backs to this tree. Something about the negative charge from the lightning searches for the positive charge of the pocket watch, all connects through the tree, and zap, time travel, I explain. Huh, Jade arches an eyebrow. Kind of like those clunky batteries that power Graham's remote. You gotta line up the pluses and minuses and zap, magical TV. She waves her hands and heads side to side. She doesn't believe me. Thunder rolls in the far distance, almost a soft growl. I don't see the lightning, but it has to be there. There's no cracking sound without a lightning branch. Definitely no sign of a bolt from the blue. We shouldn't be able to travel, but what if we tried anyway? Take out your pocket watch, flip it open, and stand like this, I instruct. Jade stands next to me with our backs to the tree. Our pocket watches open as the wind continues to pick up. Hold my hand. I reach for Jade. She tentatively reaches back. We stretch the pocket watches in front of us. Wind gusts from all directions. The train whistle blows in the distance and thunder roils closer by. The air feels tingly. I close my eyes, remembering the last time, how lightning charged right toward me, how I blacked out and woke up in future Monroe, how too much power can actually paralyze. Max, I hear Jade yell, look. When I open my eyes, all the electricity around us is gathered in one spot, like a tight cluster of fireflies blinking one light second apart from another. 1,000 voices chatter together and whisper in our ears, a dark space with white noise. I thought these were only in myths, but here is one hanging midair in front of us, a static time portal. As I look closer, an image appears through the static window. Flips of blue, green, and red and dark shadows intertwine with the light as a picture becomes almost clear. A woman with chestnut curly hair and a pointed chin reads a book on a recliner. She's dressed like a sales lady from a Kohl's department store. My gut recognizes her before my brain does. Who is that? Jade whispers. Suddenly, the woman looks up, directly at us, as if she heard the question. She stands, laying the book face up on the chair, and walks over to the door. Instead of neat print, the pages reveal handwritten scribbles, a journal. Our lens follows her like camera operators filming a movie, watching over her shoulder. She opens the door. A delivery man greets her and hands her a brown box with a paper to sign. No logo or return address, but I watch as she signs the slip. She grabs the pen with her left hand, one sharp line down, 2 bumps on the line, and curvy letters the rest of the way. Her name is Brooke. Everything in my chest pounds, heart, lungs, blood. The pins of electricity move faster, a snowstorm of black and light. Letting go of Jane's hand, I reach for the static, but it turns blurry, starting to fade. As fast as Brooke's image appeared, she's gone. The wind lets up. Jade and I stand in dim stillness. Holy shit, what the hell was that? Was that? Jade's not moving, but breathing fast, like I do before my lights blink out. Jade, here, come sit down. Taking her arm, I guide her to a small stump. There's a moon high in the sky, opaque and blurry behind a thick spider web of clouds. Even in the faded light, I can tell she's freaked out. Crouched in front of her, we lower our heads, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Stalling. Unable to say out loud who we just saw. Afraid it might make it all go away for good. Unsure if it was real or some confused hallucination. Jade says it first, barely audible. Was that her? I think so, I whisper back. She looked older. Where was she? Jade asks. Not only where was she, when was she? I blurted out. The sounds of twigs crack and rustle nearby. I dart my eyes. I think we've done enough tonight, Jade. You've got to get home. Wait, no, Jade yells. We need to do it again. Conjure the spirits. This is some paranormal activity level shit. We could see Hunter too. She flails her arms. We can't, I snap. She leans back. Sorry, I say. I need to figure out how to make this happen again. She doesn't push back. We walk quickly toward the edge of the pines. Goosebumps march up and down my arms. The hair on my neck pricks the collar of my coat, and I can't shake the awful feeling of being watched. Thank you.
Go girl!
Merlyn!
And last but not least, Jess Tower.
Hi, sorry, it's not like showing up. 1 second. I can't see myself for some reason. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Craig. Always got my back. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's get started. I'm just gonna thank some people first. So thank you guys all for coming. And before I start, I like to say thank you to my mentors, Stephen Haven, Stephen Kramer, Kevin Proofer, and of course, Sharon Bryan. You all have helped me to learn and grow in so many ways, even in ways that you might not have realized. I'm immensely grateful to all 4 of you. Also, perhaps even more importantly, I'd like to say thank you to my cohort and to my friends and family who have made up the bulk of this manuscript. You're all in here, whether it's through the actual words, the music I listened to while writing this, or by reading between the lines for the things that happened or that are happening now or that have yet to happen. I love you all. Here are 9 poems from my thesis, Metalust. I'm in space. You wanted to see me jaded, a piece of scrap metal in space. I'm like that sometimes, an asteroid close to enveloping myself, too close to you. I loved you because you were the first person I slept with after Ben, after the end of that space-time continuum that first appeared after Danny's birthday, AKA my new symptoms. But that was not then. I'm off track. Unlike neurotypicals, my thoughts don't always connect. Like a child, I am the poem. Alas, I'm not a child anymore. Not like then with you on that couch. I'm just a body, eating through space, maybe hated, possibly unloved. Grandma as Diana. Saw my grandma's face mixing with grandpa's girlfriend's face as I was falling asleep. Grandma and Diana were wearing grandma's ring. They looked up at my mom, hair aglow and so black, toxic. They always take me and tell me, it's all right, Jess. It's all right that you're bi. Let's sleep now. I don't know if they're one, but I know they're dead and alive, not me, yet the ones who get it, all of it. Mirroring. Who looks at a mirror to see a mirror, Philippine proverb. Stephen Kramer likes it when I write about plants, not you. I liked writing about you before we were dust, but now the CBD says, goodbye, you will replace me with weed again soon. Thinking of you like that, naked with another girl, makes me think I'll switch back to weed for you, even though it makes me see mirrors in myself. I'll use up all the weed in your closet, the way you used me up, every illegal pound of it. Maybe the chanter. Walks around the halls of my building, making his la and sounds, repeating Easter Sunday in his reverberating, creepy voice. Maybe he is outside the window, but is invisible for real. Maybe he isn't real. Maybe it isn't really 7 a.m. or 11 a.m. on the dot when the chanter sings only for me. Maybe my cat is the only other being who perks ears at him, because when friends or lovers sleep over, he never chants. Maybe the chanter loves me. Maybe he's calling me to my doom. I should have called management long ago, but it's been too long now, and he's probably harmless. Maybe I'm hearing things, but I swear, Em heard him too that one time, though she won't admit it now. The night after the Isabella Stewart Gardner. I hope I don't dream about whales, about ghosts again. Last night was fucked up. I don't know how we all saw what we did, experienced it. It's like we were in a bubble, fog all around us, ghosts telling us what to do, where to go. I go up to the 3rd floor, and Carissa's there too, but at a different time, a different period, frame, and we hear a violin, and the guy's there with 18 people surrounding him. I back out, but Carissa stays in, calling him toward her, lurking into a corner because she felt weird. And Danny's over there while I'm on the other side with Carissa again, and Christian. And I don't know how we got there when we all saw the veil in the other room, but I waved to Danny, trying to make a mess of things. I mean, trying to make sense of things. And he just stands there, lurking. That's gratitude. Accommodation. That's my gratitude. I take Xanax when I need its effects, and so every time I try, I seclude myself into a red-blue war zone filled with mood. I'm palpitating, stone cold, and said, wrecked accommodation. That's my gratitude. Didn't want to go to Thanksgiving, you said you're anxious. You did nothing but check. And so every time I try, I seduce you into a type of humor, being lewd with you when I want nothing but respect. Accommodation, that's my gratitude. I died, just cried, and you said, it's food, but your anxiety is mine too, let's. And so every time I try, I dilute my panic mentally, eyes not gratitude, panic not panicked, and I am a mess. Accommodation, that's my gratitude, but every time I try, I'm secluded. So there's just a few poems left. This one's called Cyclical. The moon is depressed because I am depressing. It wants to eat me like I'm soup because I whine and it can't stand me. I slide through my hospital window and make peace with my past, the one that bites lovingly. I last 1 hour outside of my body, feeling finally accomplished. He says, I can't come over. He says, I'm too tired. I say, but I'm dying for you. I say, I can't have my tarot cards by the window anymore. The moon will eat them as it eats up my soup of a soul. And the moon says, good dinner. You lasted an hour in my terrain. And I say, I don't know what to do about work. And he says, you're a loser. You're insane. I don't care. This world's a disguise. Blanks may be dead and we're all diseased. I don't know why we all don't die right after birth. But I know if we all blew our brains out like my ex's brother, we'd all be light years away from where we want to be. Crack your neck just right and tell me this is your temporary fix. I've been waiting for a text back. I've been waiting for you for all of this space. I don't like it at all. Falling from clouds from the metal-filled sky, I bless my lessened weight. Fat positivity for failure. I'm in orbit and I don't care. And this is the last poem. It's called The Bicyclist Near Gallows Hill Park. It's actually the last poem in my thesis too, so. I'm writing about Jillian's 30th. When we saw that bicyclist speed up to 30 miles per hour from nothing, no motor, literally nothing, at that stop sign near my house. No, that was at Danny's 29th. He was an epiphany of sorts. We knew the bicyclist was both hardwood floor and the space-time continuum. What are we doing for Carissa's 22nd, for my 27th? It is 1:08 a.m. and the last time I remember checking the clock was at 12:34, seemingly forever ago. I had a pickleback at Jillian's 30th and a lot that I don't remember at Danny's 29th. He ate the candle flame, that much I do remember. Flames' dying time, he turned 29, too close to 30. What will I have at Carissa's 22nd? Will I remember my 27th? They all know I had 2 tequila shots and 8 other drinks I can't quite remember at Brianna's bachelorette party. Will they use that against me? I feel a little funny now, more than drinking buddies, but I feel like little butterflies now. What will I have at my 27th? Too soon. It will be forever ago. And that's it.
Woo! Awesome.
Thank you, readers. Thank you, Jess, for what I found to be the surprises in your work. The lines, it's all right that you're by, let's sleep now. I love the tension between those two lines, and also appreciated your foray into the formal with that's gratitude, and the line, a red-blue war zone filled with mood. Really love that line. Thank you for your reading. Merlyn, bolts, appreciating your creation of an intriguing world in your text, in your writing. David, appreciated that you, among the first lines, if not the first line of a text on suicide is, I know how the story is going to end. And appreciating your willingness to explore this, this terrain and the unrelenting nature of your text, the positive unrelenting nature of your text. Allison, there's this wonderful deep contemplation of trauma and humanity, and metaphor of the demon for trauma. It's really, it's a really strong piece of writing, in my opinion. And Angelo, appreciating the honesty of the speaker's thoughts against a background of complex family dynamics. So thank you each for bringing these texts to us. And I want to wish you all the best as you continue to write and send your work into the world. So that's the reading for the evening. And gonna encourage you all to join us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for a reading by William Major, or readings by William Major, Annalie Newton, Mike Penna, and Benjamin Simani. Thanks, everybody.